Welcome to Soltron. This is a video review for this KO lot of KO Transformers. So there's Battalion Grimlock, Roadbots, Jetfire, and Authentics KO oversized Megatron. Here's the size comparison. Okay, let's start with the one that I think is probably the best of the lot. So this is a good stand-in if you don't have a Jetfire. The quality's a little bit cheap feeling. I'd say maybe it's about a 5. You could definitely break this if you're being careless. They did add some interesting little details, like just greebles all over his body basically. So they did some light remolding and on the visor, just to differentiate him from the original figure, but this is definitely a KO. I've had a few of these kinds of Takutoku Macross figures, and this is definitely an identical figure. So it comes with his gun, and then he has all the articulation of the original figure, so it even has ratchets in the shoulders, which is nice. It has full outward motion here. It's a little bit stiff, and you should definitely hold it here to avoid breaking the plastic. And then rotation at the bicep, and then nothing in the wrists. And then he's got a full forward kick, also on a ratchet, very nice. And then a knee bend, 90 degrees, also on a ratchet. And then the head does 360 on a swivel, so that's pretty good. So he transforms the same way as the original figure. You're just going to push in the fists. And then you separate this backpack section. You're going to have to open the wings, and then lower the backpack section, and then open this tab here to make room for the head, and then you rotate these antennae up, which are kind of like a soft, pretty soft rubbery plastic, so not very good on that. And then you rotate the head around so it's facing the correct direction. You fold that in, being careful of the antenna. Okay, and then the head will end up down here. And these antennae are very fragile, so these could be broken off really easily. And then you rotate the arms into place on these double hinges. They're going to basically end up here. He does, of course, do a gear walk. So there is like this bar armature here, which rotates all the way around. On the original figure, this was made out of metal. So you can rotate the legs into the gear walk position, and again you have to be careful of those antennae. And then you can just have the arms splayed out. That's basically your gear walk mode. I never really cared that much for this mode, but this is the original figure, it can definitely do it. Okay, so putting those arms back in position. Okay, this feels pretty cheap in hand. If I was rushing a little bit more and not really being very attentive, I could probably definitely shear something off. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. But it's nice that all the parts fit together. It is a functional transformer. It's not the bottom of the shelf bootleg. So he's looking really good in this alt mode. And then he does have the landing gear, which are spring loaded and also made out of plastic. There you go. So you can just have him rest nicely on his landing gear. And then I think the gun pod does not fit anywhere because there's no kind of clip to hold it. So that doesn't have any weapon storage, but looking pretty good. Here he is with a deluxe figure, and they look really good together. Really makes me want to get an actual Jetfire, but I think this mode looks pretty excellent. This would be good to display with an actual Macross figure, just having a stand-in that transforms. And the white color on this is really pretty. So this is a pretty good white. It is like a KO white, but it is really nice and vibrant too. Alright, moving on, we got this Battalion Grimlock. He comes with this black sword, which is kind of nothing. It would be nice if it came in a color, would really set it apart. And then overall for his looks is kind of terrible. His head sculpt is also really strange. This looks like he has a giant nose. I think that might be intentional, I'm not sure. He does have a head swivel. It's very limited. And then he does have an arm swivel here. It's on a very tight joint. And then he's got forward kick, backward kick, and then a full large outward on this ball joint. And then more than 90 degrees on this knee. And then the elbows are about 90 degrees, no swivel. So he's okay. He feels better in hand than the Jetfire KO. He's probably a 7, a 6, let's say a 6. And then he does have a die-cast chest, which was an interesting choice for a figure that's kind of not very good to look at. So his fists pivot up for transformation, and then you're going to get his little dino forearms ready, and then his chest opens up, and that gives you access to the dino head, and that's going to just close over his original head, and then you have to get the legs into position, so that's done by these little armatures here. So these double hinges will fold back into place, and then you fold up the legs entirely and fold out this tail section, and the other leg doesn't have anything to fold out, and that's just going to join up on his back here and fill out the gap there. Okay, here's how he looks all cleaned up, and of course he does have leg articulation and forearm articulation. Oh, he's a little bit floppy. He's having a little hard time standing up. And then he does have this lever on the top of his head for his jaw, which is pretty cool. And then this is how he scales with the deluxe figure, which I think is pretty good scale. Alright, and then finally we have this Authentics Megatron. He's actually, I think he looks pretty good. His head sculpt is kind of interesting. It's a really interesting take on Megatron. He's unfortunately very flat, so his profile is not looking very good. And then his calves are totally hollow. And then he's pretty much every joint in his body is a ball joint. So you get ball joint shoulders, which can also fold outwards behind him. You get ball joint neck, you get ball joint elbows, ball joint hips, which have full outward kick, and then limited forward and backward kick because of this little corner of plastic right there. And then he's got more than 90 degrees at the knees, and then a knee swivel because they're ball joints. And then really no usable ankle tilt. So let's see, transforming this guy, you're going to start by just rotating the turret section to his back and then just pegging that together. So his turret's basically going to look like that. You can lift that out of the way. And then you move these feet section to the outside of the tank, and those are just going to sandwich or fold back into place. And that's basically his tank mode in a couple seconds. Okay, had to clean everything up here, but everything does tab nicely into place. He does just have his head staring down at the ground, but there's his tank mode, which is kind of awful looking, to be honest. Not a great tank. And then compared to a deluxe figure, it's definitely too small. He's not much bigger than a deluxe. His quality, though, is pretty good. In hand, he feels like a solid 7. I'm not worried about any part of this guy breaking at all. So that's these 3 KOs. I'll leave a link in the description where I got them from Sirtoys if you'd like to order a set for yourself.